Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to use this time as the final week so we can go over some of the things we went through. It was a nice short little semester we did. I think we grasped a lot of the concepts, the core concepts that we needed in qualitative research. One of the things I like to just make sure that we understand in qualitative research, we're looking for very descriptive things. We're looking for interviews and all kinds of ways to get at data that really doesn't speak to the numbers side of things. It really speaks to the quality of the data. We could say on the quantitative side, you can say, oh, it's 30 degrees outside, but the qualitative side will ask people, how does it feel? Do you feel cold? Do you feel this way? Tell me how you feel, and you may get a lot of different answers. So qualitative research is very important in the research world. I think it's not easier than quantitative, and it's not harder than quantitative. It is different, and I want to make sure you guys understand that. We can always go to the scientific method of things, which is kind of where quantitative research came out of. Very structured. You can do an experiment and you can repeat this experiment again, and you'll have the same answers. Qualitative research is a little different, and what we want to do as researchers is to identify those things that might get past that quantitative world. And in social sciences, in behavioral sciences, there's a lot of work that you can capture in a qualitative analysis that you might miss in quantitative analysis. They're both equally important, but they have their similarities and they have some differences. Each one of them have their downfalls, and each one of them have some really good things to talk about. I find qualitative research really important in the social sciences because it does capture data and it does help policymakers see things from a different light than just statistical analysis. So with this final, I'd like to spend this time in figuring out some good tips to know, understanding what primary data is. And we're looking at the. I hope we can see this. We're looking at the qualitative research collecting primary data. So when you look for primary data, you're looking at some important ways to look for this data. And how do you get this? We go by four basic fundamental methodologies that we use. We use experimentation, surveys, interviews, and focus groups. There are other ways, but these are sort of the primary ways that we do find some data. And I love this picture, this little boy here. This is actually from a video I'm asking you guys to write about as a final sort of capstone kind of thing for this class. And I don't want you to write a thesis or survey or some huge paper. Just write some good critical thoughts after you watch the video and see if you can see it from that researcher's perspective. There are some things here that talk about racism, they talk about hate, and this, that, and the other thing, but look at it from the researcher's perspective. So when you're doing your experiments, let's go to experiments. When you're doing experiments, you're comparing before and after data to see if something works. I'm not going to talk a lot about experiments, but I think it is important when we do some data analysis in qualitative analysis. So it's important. I've seen some good papers come out uh, of researchers looking at when we give you a test, a student or a child a test to do something, and if you change one or two of the variables that are there, maybe you change the air temperature in the room, or maybe you put them taking the same exact class, but they're taking it. One group is taking it in a sunlit room, and the other is taking it inside of a basement. Nothing else changed, just the room changed. So you want to see how that data compares to each other, whether it affects the scores of their test. So you want to, see if the treatment does something that we can hold on to. So experiments are a wonderful way to get that information. And I did put uh, the PBS looks like a link to a class divided, which is a classic experiment where a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, um, took a class right after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and she wanted to speak to the students about it. And she did a sort of an experiment, an ad hoc experiment, to see what information she can get out of there. What makes these children work? So take a look at that, and hopefully this will help you understand what experiments in qualitative research talk about. The other part is doing surveys. We want to, when you do a survey, you're sort of taking a step into asking questions. You really want to know what's going on. You want to be curious about things. So uh, you want to make sure you put your little curiosity hat on and say, you know what, I really want to know what's going on. Don't go in there thinking you know everything when you're doing a survey. You want to have some information, but you want to really focus on your curiosity and what you want to know. Those are important because researchers sometimes think they know what they're asking. They think they know the answer. Then you're going down the wrong path. So you really want to think about, what is it that I really want to know? What's going on here? So you want to be curious, understand, and be ignorant. Just blatantly say, I didn't know that, or I should have known that, but I didn't know that. Really want to understand what's going on. Um, the other part is you want to make sure that your survey is given to people that are going to represent the population that you're working on. Remember, we can't test an entire population. It's nearly impossible. Then you need a census or something to do that, and even that can be there could be some problems with that. But you want to say, okay, I want the population I want to look at is the entire group of Rosemont College. You're not going to go and grab everybody from Rosemont College. You'll be there forever. It's not even a good project. You might want to grab 5 or 10 students, get that survey to them, and then work on that and make some assumptions of those of the answers you get. If the survey sample matches it may match the general population. And believe it or not, in social sciences, behavioral sciences, we use a lot of sample surveys to try to get a handle of what the people are feeling. If you look at the political theater we had the last 4 years, you see a lot of polling out there. People are polling things. Does that mean that we really like something, or a percentage, maybe 1,000 people were polled, and now we're making policies reflective of those 1,000 people that we just polled? One of the more famous surveys that you always see is like the Nielsen ratings. That kind of gets into the quantitative world, but there's some qualitative aspects to it. Um, the Nielsen ratings, they only do about 5,000 Nielsen families out there. When it was hot and heavy, they would give somebody maybe $100 to be a Nielsen family for a week. They put a little box in their house, and then they would track everybody in that family's viewing habits. And then from that data, they can get ratings that would be reflective of the entire population. So if you watch Shark Week that week, Shark Week will have a higher rating or whatever it is. So, but that doesn't mean that everybody watched it. But we're trying to make this sort of inference, and you hear a lot about inference in the other class is quantitative research, but you have to make some serious inferences about that, and there are ways to do that. So make sure that your sample is matching your population. You don't want to sample, let's say, a bunch of swimmers when you are looking at something that has nothing to do with swimming. You want to see if you can get a good diverse group in there. I don't know how much I can say about that, but let me try that. Then we get out to interviews. You want to make sure you know what you want to know. You don't want to go to an interview not having the correct information for this interview. Interview is like a one-on-one kind of conversation with your participant, informant, whatever you want to call them, and you want to have really good, well-crafted questions for your interview. And the questions need to be open-ended, where they can have conversation with you. You just don't want to have a yes/no answer. That's kind of like shortchanges the rich data you're looking for. You try to look to elicit a good response. Maybe from that question you give, maybe it will elicit another question that might expand on that one question you worked on. Um, you don't want to be mechanical about things. When I was doing interviews on the West Coast, we had students who were very mechanical and just reading off the paper, getting an answer, and moving on. And it seemed very, it was, we had to stop. I said, time out, everybody. Let's be a little more natural in speaking. The way you speak to your friends, maybe a little better. Make sure you're professional. The tone of voice you want to have is a good tone. What you're wearing does play a role in it. You don't want to go into an interview with the CEO wearing a weekend outfit or something that you're not doing. You're not going to be greeted as a professional. As a matter of fact, they may not give you all the answers that you're looking for or elicit responses that will help you if you're not engaged properly by sight or even by tone of voice. Remember, it might be that first interaction that kind of sets the tone for the entire interview. Um, will this interview be conversational, formal, or informal? Those are different ways. We spoke about that a couple of lectures ago. Um, I like the informal type interview. It could kind of go out into all three of these things in one interview session. It could be conversational. But if you're staying informal, you try to get one standard set of facts and information. Being conversation, you could be a little more. It'll go off tangent, and you're like way off base of what you're looking for. So you want to be careful being conversational. Um, so informal is a good way to elicit good information. Formal, you may get information, but it's sort of like you can't really deviate from the formal setup, uh, depending on who you're interviewing or the number of interviews you do. So, being informal is a good way to get good information, rich information, and sometimes things from the heart that you need. Then we go on to focus groups. Focus group is not interviewing six people at once. That's not what a focus group is. A focus group is you're facilitating a discussion among these people who may give you information that they may not have given you in an interview. And we've done a focus group a couple of days ago on a particular topic, nothing to do with behavioral science. It was more of a marketing thing, and it was amazing to see these students responding to questions individually, and then when they got together, they had sort of different responses. They were more open to commentary. They were less evasive. Um, so the focus group can give you this comfortable feeling amongst your participants. They and if you're a good facilitator or researcher or in some dissertations they actually hire a facilitator and the person doing the dissertation will stand by and just take the notes. There are professional facilitators out there. I don't know if anybody's going to pay for that, but usually the researcher does all that work. But if you're good at engaging with your participants, they start to feel comfortable. Then they start feeding off of each other and getting all that information out. Um, there could be some times when one may disagree with another, and that exchange is important to grab. You don't want to interfere with those exchanges. You want to let those things happen naturally. You'll be able to look at maybe the way they're looking at each other. Sometimes you get gestures that might say one thing while they're saying something differently. So it's important that you grab that information, that sort of nonverbal cues, write them down as quickly as possible. As soon as you're done with your focus group, sit by yourself and just start writing things down. Say, oh, you know what? she gave this real curious look at the other person, like, don't say anything, or you better watch how you say that, or you watch yourself. So there might be a little bit of tension in there. So you might want to grab all that good information that might be relevant to your topic of discussion. I hope this was helpful. I really enjoyed this class. It was a little bit difficult at first because I tried to do something new and I kind of deviated from it. I wanted to use the textbook a little bit, um, but then I found that the textbook was speaking in a language that was difficult to try to translate to you to get uh, to get a good class going. Again, my job is not here to trick you or to do anything to. I want to make sure that you learn something and move forward with it. And I hope I was able to accomplish that. So the next thing I need you guys to do is to do the assignment. Try to get that done. It's not a very hard assignment to do. Again, take a look at the video. Um, I think it's, I watch it with my kids, and when I first watched it, and I wanted to hear what they had to say. They were like floored by it. So if you have any family members that want to watch it during this COVID time, hey, let them take a look at it and ask them what they feel about it. Have some conversation with them. It may help you gather your thoughts, and it'd be interesting to hear. I sat with my sister or my spouse, and we spoke watching, and she agreed, I'd agree, we argued. That would be a great paper to write. Again, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, just email me. Okay. Stay safe. And when the vaccine's available, I hope you guys get it. And let's start moving forward. Take care now. Bye bye.